you'll get so clouded. You'll just be like, I don't know. I mean, everyone's doing this, so that's what we should do, right? And I'm here to say, no, what you should do with your show, the kind of show you should host, the kind of content you should be speaking on and creating and sharing is the stuff that's actually going to lead to where you want to be. Hello, welcome back to our show series. I'm Christine Baird, the founder of Birthful Media, and in this video, I want to talk about one of the most common conversations I have with our clients. We're a production house for seasoned personal brands who podcast on YouTube. Most of our clients work in self-development, health and wellness, or entrepreneurship, so it's a pretty niche area, but if you know it, you know it, and you know there's a lot of really cool people making really cool media and up to big things. And they often come to us because we're working with them on launching their show and producing it. And they want to get it right? If you're watching this and you're a show host, or you want to be a show host and you're a seasoned personal brand, you're like, I want to get this right, especially because it's an investment and it's public and it lives on the internet and it's kind of vulnerable. And also you've seen other people do really great shows and not so great shows. And so I get it. And I agree. Let's do it right. So I'm going to walk you through just some of the most important things that I cover with clients at the very outset of coming up with the show. Because as a show host, the whole series we're doing on the YouTube channel this year is for show hosts to become better show hosts, to make better decisions, play to their strengths, make the best show they can. You know, because you've watched the channel, like we are huge fans of hiring producers and production houses like ours to do the work, the legwork, the editing, the recording, the production, the file management, the show management. Like that's all stuff we want to take off your plate. And in an ideal world, every show host will have support. But even if you're watching this with just looking for some DIY tips, I want you to hear what I'm about to say because it's applicable regardless of the level of support you have as a show host. Here's what the conversation looks like. The client will say, hey, we really trust you. You know what's up in this space. So what should we do with, for example, our YouTube channel or our podcast? Like, what kind of content should we make? You know, you tell me whether we should be doing clips or full-length episodes, or whether I should do conversations, or whether I should do solo content, or whether I should invite these people on. Should I do it weekly? Should I not? And here's what I always end up walking through with them. And it's so valuable. So even if you don't have a production team to walk you through this process, you can do this for yourself. There is always going to be endless shows and brands to compare yourself to, right? We know this. And even though we know it, it's really hard to get our heads out of comparison mode because media is designed to catch your attention and make you want something you don't have. That's what the advertising industry does. And that's kind of like the backbone of media. So when it comes to making a show that you're hoping will serve your audience and, you know, give your best wisdom and attract the dream people that you want to work with to you, it can be really easy to fall into the same trap and look at everyone else's show or everyone else's brand and media strategy and be like, oh, I mean, that's what I should do. Like they're successful at it. So should I, especially if you have a very similar like industry or niche or focus as someone else. Let's say you are a health coach who works with postpartum moms. You're probably paying a lot of attention to all the other health coaches who work with postpartum moms in your space, right? Like that would make sense that you would be paying attention. And so what happens often is in these initial conversations with clients, we do a lot of unpacking and kind of like reverse engineering. So the question I'll ask is, hey, tell me where you want your show, your business, your brand to be in 5 years. And the reason I push it out a few years is because podcasting and YouTube are long form and they take a long time to develop, is what I'm trying to say. Like the best shows are going to happen down the road. Like your best content is not going to be the first content you make. And it's not going to come out in 6 months and it probably won't even come out in 12 months. Like the longer you stick with these mediums, the better you'll get at them and the better your audience will be able to find you, and everything, if you're doing things right, everything should get better over time. Obviously, if you have too much on your plate, you're burned out, you're doing the wrong kind of show, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse, and you'll probably end up, sunsetting it or discarding it, which is understandable. But if you're in the right show with the right support and you're oriented to, share the right stuff, your show will get better over time. So your best work will not be your first work. And so as we're talking about 5 years out, I'm like, hey, tell me what projects you have up to in the next couple of years. What are your priorities? Where do you see your business going or your work? Maybe you're not doing this for business, but you have a brand or a cause or a project you're working on. That's the most important place to start, because podcasting and YouTubing, especially if you're a personal brand, it's going to get a lot of momentum the longer you do it and the more consistently you do it. And you've heard this, but it's super important to look down the road, because if you look too closely at what's happening right in front of you and what all your friends are doing, you'll get so clouded. You'll just be like, I don't know. Everyone's doing this, so that's what we should do, right? And I'm here to say, no, what you should do with your show, the kind of show you should host, the kind of content you should be speaking on and creating and sharing, is the stuff that's actually going to lead to where you want to be, a few years down the road. So what this could look like, for example, let's say you are an expert type of show host. You are super savvy and know a ton about your area. You're really good at teaching and training and speaking on it. So you probably have a solo show. Maybe you don't even have guests, because who needs guests if people are coming to you for the goods, right? So let's say you decide on a solo show because you're an expert type of show host, and you have, spent the last 10 to 15 years teaching and refining and honing a specific framework for what you do, and people know you for it. And that is your sweet spot. Amazing. Yes, we would want to start with the show covering some of that core content, because that's what you're known for. That's what people are coming to you for. But we wouldn't want to just regurgitate the same stuff that you've been teaching forever. We would want to start with some good content that will hook people in who are looking for those answers. And then we want to take them somewhere, and we want to take them where you're going. So let's say you have a vision of writing a best-selling book in 3 years, and you're starting the manuscript now, and it's a years-long process to get it all out into the world, because it is. Then you are like, okay, well, I'm going to start writing this book, and here's who it's for, and this is what I envision. So I'm going to start creating content on my show years in advance that is kind of taking my audience towards what that book is going to offer. That's what I'm talking about. And that's probably going to look totally different than your friend who's also in your industry, who's up to something else, because you're looking down the road. Let's say you want to become a really amazing event host, and you realize you have this wonderful community around you of people who really love to gather and would have an amazing time coming together for a live event, a workshop, a retreat, something that maybe that's a dream of yours. Well, if you want to host an event in 2 years that's beautifully attended and well done and just the event of your dreams, then you're going to want to start creating content on your show that's leading people to that. That's what this is like. And this is the conversation I have right up at the front when we start working with a client. I'm like, show me where you're heading, because that will help me guide you to the kinds of show that will take us there. The problem is if you kind of look at the history of people in your space who've made great shows, and you're like, yeah, let's just do what they do because look at their success. Well, what got them here won't get them there, and what got you here isn't going to get you there. And there's a delicate balance between playing to your strengths, which that I always am talking about, and leaning into what and also taking your audience to new waters and guiding them. That's why people like listening and watching great shows. They spend a lot of hours with you because they trust where you're taking them. And they don't just want to hear on repeat everything you've ever said forever. Take us where you're heading, and step by step, start simple, introduce us, don't deluge us right away with the future. But that's the most important question to ask yourself at the start of a show. Maybe you're relaunching a show, maybe you've had a show in the past, you want to start a new show. It's super, super valuable as the show host to actually think about well, where am I heading? And maybe it's probably not a crystal clear vision, right? Most of us don't have an exact 5-year plan. And even if we do, we all know things are not going to go to plan. But it is helpful to just map out a few things that you know are priorities that you're going to be committed to and focused on for the next few years, and think about like, well, who are the people who are going to want to be on that journey with me, especially when we get to the big milestone moments. Okay, what information would be helpful to share with them along the path to prepare them for that? And what can I do to be a better show host to actually share it with them? And what kind of content does that look like? What format? Maybe it's short videos, maybe it's long videos, maybe it's conversations, maybe it's solo. Maybe you do, bingeable seasonal stuff, and then you go off and you create a bunch of cool things and you come back and record. Or maybe you do a weekly show, what we call always on, for the next 2 years, and you're taking people on the journey every week with you. There's so many great options, but the best ones will be tailored to you, and they'll be based on where you're heading, not like where you've been or what you've seen other people do. Okay, that's our tip for today. If you are curious about what type of show host you are, and you're like wondering what your natural strengths are, take our show host quiz if you haven't already. The link is below in the video description. It's super quick, it's free, and you'll get a really great insight, a follow-up email written by me about how to understand your natural strengths as a show host, which type you are, what kind of show would play to your strengths. And that's a great starting point. And obviously subscribe to the channel, because we're going to send weekly videos to you on the channel all about becoming a better show host as a personal brand.